Hello, you all. I'm truly intuitive, and today I am at the park doing your video for this week. Okay, so today we're talking about your expectations for God. Okay, a lot of us have these expectations like, God, you got to pull me out, you got to be my savior, you got to get me together, you got to hold me straight, you got to take all this disease away, you got to take all the family members away, and the hate away, and the overwhelm, and the addiction, and the hate, and the pain away, God. And we want God to have this role where God is like, God, you should have the role where you could take it, do anything. You can take whatever away. You can remove anything. You can have anything when it comes to me or when it comes to the world. But you have to realize that God is a gentleman. And in the Bible, I know there's been many times where you be like, God is not no damn gentleman. God done did some things. You right. Yes, you are. But God has learned since he created us how to be more patient with us, how to be more consistent with us, how to listen and understand us a little better. And as we know in the Bible where it says God hasn't changed, God has been the same, still the same, will always be the same. That is true. And you can see in the Bible, at the beginning, even when he was killing everybody, how his disciples or something will ask him like, God, please, spare us. You know what you said. You know that you promised us you're going to get us out of here. And he was like, all right, I did promise y'all that, but y'all trying me. So it lets you know that God is patient. God does have this, have a heart. And God does want to guide you in the right direction. But God can't make you go in the right direction. God can tell you and align you and give you every single detail that lets you know what you should do and why you shouldn't go the other way. But you will do it because you want to anyway. You'll do it because there's something, a voice in you telling you to do it. You'll do it because it's your prerogative. And God lets you know, and God, award us with free will in life, letting us know that you have your prerogative to do whatever you want. But when you're ready to follow me, and when you're ready to really understand what the true love and true light and true abundance is, then you will realize that your free will is not something that you really want. You will truly understand that doing what I have asked you to do, doing what I've guided you to do, is what is going to keep you safe. And I haven't been trying to be mean or be this big old buff guy like that's ruining your life. I'm just trying to make sure that you are safe in every aspect, in every way, moving in any area of life. And a lot of time, again, Jesus followed every single rule, every single law in the Bible, including even laws that weren't laws, just having this faith and having this energy and still being a good person, and still was hated and still was unsafe and still was overwhelmed. Listen, there are amazing people on this earth that don't mess with nobody, they don't do nothing bad, they don't do nothing. And these people are the main people that were talked about, hurt, probably beat up in school and everything like that. You being a good person does not mean you're going to be safe in this world. And so that's why God gives us these parameters to stay within, because if people who are great can be stoned and be hurt and be overwhelmed, then people who are regularly sinning, like me and you, people who know the right from wrong and they're still doing what's wrong, we know that we're going to go through some shit. So moving forward, God, I had a revelation this week that we like to plan God. All right, we think we have this big idea of what God is. We think we know what God is already. Like God, again, by plan, we think God is practical, right? So we think God is practical. We think that God wants to use us, wants to move through us, and doesn't care about the laws and the theories. That's what practical means. The ability to use something, or despite what theories and what ideas and laws or whatever are talking about. And I think that God is very practical. God is trying to use you despite everything that society says that God can't do, or that you can't do, or that you can't be. But one thing about this practical energy is that you want to have this practical energy as well. Meaning that you want to see it all happen, but you don't want to worry about at all the little ideas and the theories and things that come along the way. God is that guy, but God didn't create you to be that person. You understand what I'm saying? So God is practical. God is ready to use you and utilize you to do work, to do amazing things, despite what the world may say and may think. But you are looking at God in the very same way, like, okay, well, since you're so amazing, you better do this work. I want to see it. And I'm not trying to really care about what you done wrote down, what you said. I'm just trying to see the outcome of what you done said that you're going to do. And that's where we mix this up. We want God to be this practical energy. We're thinking of God in this practical way, but we're not in its fullest energy. God does want to use you, but God is not your genie. God is not your genie. God's like, oh God, I need 3 wishes, please. Come on out, wherever you are. I need my 3 wishes today. That's not what God does. If what you want, if your intentions, if what you really want for your life is not aligned with what God has for you, you're going to see your life be turmoil. You're going to see your life be frustrating. And my thing is, even if you are doing what's right for yourself, you can still see your life be overwhelming. So that's how you have to really ask yourself, dang, am I really doing what's right for God? Because either way you go, you're going to see heavy difficulty. So we try to make sure, or we try to think that God is practical, and we hold God to this practical sense, like, oh, I'm not moving, I'm not doing anything until you show me. And God is like, I know who I am. So if you're not going to move, then I guess me and you're going to stand still. Or I guess I'm going to just move on and go help somebody else who actually does want to move. Don't be that person that is waiting on God to move, knowing that God is everything and God has done everything. God doesn't have to prove to you that God knows what to do or can move or knows how to align you. You have to know yourself that you want alignment so much that you will move regardless. You will move towards abundance and towards stability, and you will do what's right for yourself regardless. All right? So again, we like to think God is practical, because we like to plan God. The L in plan, we like to think that God is linear. We like to think that once we learn one thing, that we are fine, that we've learned the lesson and it's over. We like to think that the first time we've heard something, that we done got it. We like to think that everything within this journey is linear, and it's not. And I used to always say, like, healing is linear. Because to a certain point it is. Although it is not going one line, and it'll circle back around, and you will feel like you're good one day and you won't be good, and it's not linear. But the only reason why I say that it is linear is because linear means that it goes straight forward. It's like it doesn't turn back around, and life doesn't turn back around for you. You don't have the opportunity to go back and redo some of the things that you already did. You just have to understand and learn from where you've gone and keep moving forward. And it doesn't matter how, even if you are pushed back 10 steps, that was a part of your journey. That was a part of your line of moving to where you need to be. So although it's not a straight line, that's still your line. It's still your lane. And that's why I think that life is linear. But because I love reading, I love words, for the sake of the word linear, life is not linear. God is not linear. God is so much not linear that God will have you thinking about the end of a book. I'm saying people who are writers, people who are content creators, God will have you thinking about the end result before God has you thinking about how you're going to make the entire beginning. It's not linear, because I'm sorry, y'all, but God moves through us in such a way to where we know how to handle the situations. God will move through you in a way that will help you learn how to manage and handle your situation. And God can't do that all the time if your energy is not, or if he's moving in a linear way. We say that we want linear energy, but we truly do not. If we had linear energy, we will be overwhelmed, because we don't like being patient. We don't like being patient. We don't like people telling us what to do or following instructions, or things taking a long time. We don't like that. So, I'm sorry, y'all, about the train in the background. So when it comes to wanting God to be linear, really ask yourself, are you linear? Ask yourself, do you every day feel amazing? Do you every day feel like you're moving one step? Again, we don't always feel like we're moving one step ahead of the other. We sometimes we feel like, oh yes, I'm almost there, and the next day we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm back at square one. So because we are in no way, shape, or form are linear, we have to stop expecting God to give us everything or be everything or show us everything in one moment, or even expecting everything to come the way we want it to. You have to realize that things are coming the way that they're supposed to come. If you only know the ending pieces of something right now, you just know that you need to know this right now, and it's going to be, when you learn the beginning, when you learn the middle, when you learn all these other pieces, that it's going to be amazing, because you need to know this right now. You're learning this right now for a reason. And we take that for granted a lot of time. We take for granted that we're learning what we're learning right now for a reason. Okay? And that's why life isn't linear, because you have to learn this right now. If you didn't know this right now, you'll be going through something else. And that's why also life isn't linear, because although God can tell us something, although God can inform us and warn us about certain things, we still do what we want to do. And that means that we have to go back and learn these lessons until we've learned these lessons. So life and God is not linear, because we aren't linear. We don't allow ourselves to just listen, just to be completely open, just to completely let God do what God does. So God has to move in a different way for us. And that's amazing, because it lets you know that God is communicating with you however and wherever you are, no matter if you feel like you're in alignment or not. God is working outside of alignment. God is working outside of the line to make sure that you get back into the line, you know? All right, so another way we like to plan God, okay? So the A in plan, we like for God to be, to abbreviate, okay? And not only do we like God to abbreviate, but we like, and when I say abbreviate, you guys, we like for God to shorten our load. We like God to shorten our hell. Okay? So we think that God, and I think God does, right? God has the power, and it's not think, I know. God has the power to make our situations better, to make a 30-year situation just be done in one day. God has these powers to rush and to speed up, you know, a situation that is overwhelming for us. And we pray to God for these things. Like, God, please just get me out of this hell. Get me out of this space. Please speed this up. Please, God, don't let me go through this. Da, 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 da. And we have to realize that God is not just an abbreviator. God does not just try to shorten your stuff and make stuff easier for you, especially when you're the person who thought this was going to be linear and thought that you can move through it fast, especially when you got yourself into the situation yourself. Going back straight to the linear thing, when you think that God is going to abbreviate and make your stuff shorter for you just because you made a certain decision, that's not going to be what it is. God is not going to make you have to go through the entire situation, because if you don't go through the entire situation, you will not know how to handle yourself, certain people, certain aspects of your life, certain aspects of the situation when troubles do come. If you don't face these situations head on yourself, how will you know what to do when you have more responsibility, when more things are coming, when life is giving you more? So again, if God abbreviated and made everything smaller, everything shorter, you didn't have to go through everything, you wouldn't need to get anything. You wouldn't need that much responsibility. You wouldn't need too much of anything. Or God couldn't give you too much of anything, because you don't know how to manage it. You don't know how to keep your emotions okay in it. You don't know how to keep your money straight in it. You want God to take you out of everything. And I told you guys before, God's intention is not to make you codependent of Him. God's intention is not to make you be like, oh God, please help me with everything. Help me with this, help me with that. God gave you the power to be an amazing steward. Meaning that you take what you get. It's almost like an alchemist. You take what you have and you make it more. You take what you have and you know how to utilize it. You take what you have and you know how to make more out of it, right? And as an amazing steward, God grants you with a whole bunch of responsibility. God, literally, to whom much is given, much is required. So if God gives you a lot of responsibility, God's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a lot. I'm going to give you a lot to work with. I'm going to give you a lot. And I need you to know how to handle it. I need you to know how to take care of it. I need you to not have to call me every time. It's been points in the Bible where God, where this person, so it reminded me so much of tarot. And I was asking God for a while, God, how am I supposed to serve you for real? Like, if tarot isn't it, if these things aren't it, how am I meant to serve you? And it was saying that you shouldn't. It was a verse in the Bible that was saying, I forgot who these people were, but it was a man, and it was his father-in-law. And his father-in-law came to see him out when he was working, and he was serving the people. He was going through their disputes and their disagreements and telling them what they need to do. Remind me of a tarot reader, telling them everything they need to do. But he was handling the people individually. So each one or two people that came up and they had something, he was handled individually, meaning that he had to be out there all night to handle everybody's disputes. And he was like, his father-in-law told him, he was like, this is not good what you're doing. You are going to tire yourself out. You're going to tire everybody else out. And he said, what you need to do is you need to gather them up in groups together, teach the laws of God and of spirit. And then as you start to align with people who love God just as much as you do, and that know God and know the spirit just as much as you do, appoint them as certain judges and stuff as well, so that they can help you out. And what they can handle, if they can handle certain disputes and stuff, let them handle it. And the stuff that they can't handle, have them bring it to you. And that's how I think that God feels about all of us. God wants you to build you up in such a way that you don't need him for everything. That you know that through his grace and through the lessons that you learn, that you know exactly what to do. God's not trying to be this leech, not trying to make you be like a leech and need him for everything. Oh my God, God, I don't got no clothes today. I need some. God, I don't feel good today. God wants to give you all the tools so that you know what to do by yourself. And a lot of us are ignoring this again because we want God to be this abbreviative God where God shortens up everything for us and we don't have to go through much, and we don't have to. No, God is going to make you go through it the long, hard way, because you have to know what to do. You got to know what to do, and you can't know what to do if you ain't been through nothing hard. So, you want God to be abbreviative. Also, the A can stand for achievable. God is not this achievable goal. God is not like, oh, I want $1 million and once, whatever. God is not this achievable goal. Yes, receiving God's energy is something that you can have and can achieve. But my thing is, once you get there, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay there. Because as soon as you reach this level of knowledge and wisdom within God, there is something else to learn after that. You don't just stay in God's energy. I was thinking about when I was walking up to the park, the fact that I was like, everybody that probably got healed by Jesus probably hated the day that they knew this man had to leave. And they really, because everybody that Jesus healed, he was like, all right, now go back to your family, go back to your home, and just just pray. Just like again, he was like, don't tell nobody what happened. But he was just like, just go back home. I know all these people were like, damn, like, this is the man who just saved me. I was sick, I was ill, I was demon possessed, I was feeling all these things. This man has saved me, but now I have to go back home and be around these same people and same situations and same things that made me go through this stuff in the first place, right? And it's because although God is achievable, yes, you can achieve God. God's going to put you back out there to make you, to test you, and to see, have you learned anything from what you achieved? From what you achieved from me, have you learned anything? Have I taught you anything? Have I encouraged you to be anybody different? What are you going to do with the information that I've given you? And not only information, but the love I've given you, the knowledge I've given you, the wisdom I've given you. What are you going to do when I place you back in a situation that you were just in? What are you going to do with it? And we want God to be this one achievable goal. Like, oh, I got God, I don't need nothing else. I'm perfectly fine all the rest of my life. I have peace every day. When you receive God, I'm telling you, it does not make your life easier. It helps you know that where your purpose comes from. It helps you to know and to be solid in your convictions, solid in what you're meant to do, solid in your passion, solid in your purpose. It helps you to be solid. But it does not make it easier. It honestly gets harder. And it's because we realize at that moment that God is not this one achievable thing that we're going to keep and hold on to forever, because God has to make us strong. It's not going to be this, again, even like when you say, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to reach 10,000 followers. As soon as you get there, you have another goal. That goal isn't even what you want anymore. You have a whole different goal by the time you reach the goal that you said you wanted. You have to know that at every single mountaintop that we experience in life, every time we get to our highest point, whether we realize that that is one of the lowest points in life. And not to be ungrateful or say anything bad about, like, I'm so happy we reached these heights, right? But you realize once you reach that height that that's just another low compared to the next goal that you have, compared to what God has for you next. Your heights is a new low based on what God has for you. And this is not a bad thing. This is an amazing thing. Realize that God always has something more for you. Like, you're never running out. You're never running low. God always has something more, something greater, something bigger to give you. And that's amazing. And I know we get overwhelmed and we're like, oh, I probably can't do this. And I'm probably not strong enough. I probably can't do it. Yes, you can. If you stop trying to plan God, you will understand that you can do this. And I'm going to show you after I explain to you how you've been trying to plan God, we're going to get into how you can start to understand God. Okay? So, moving forward, the last letter in plan is N. And we want God to be neutral. A lot of us are like, no, I want God to be neutral. I want God to move in my life. I want God to do this. I want God to do that. I want God to... You do. You want God to do all that. But when you are doing your own thing, you want to make your own move, you want God to be silent. You don't want God to say nothing. When you're doing your own thing, you want to make your own decision. When you want to make, want to hop into a relationship or be with a certain person or make a decision on your own, you want God to be neutral. Like, oh, whatever you want. You want God to be like, oh, I mean, whatever you like is whatever I like, and you can have whatever you really want. That's not the God that you serve. God is not going to be neutral and sit around just doing nothing, not saying nothing, when you know you're moving into the wrong direction. And that's why we a lot of time don't even pray and don't go to God about these certain situations, because we know that we want somebody who's going to be neutral. We go to our friends who are neutral, our mom who is neutral, that they ain't gonna say too much, they ain't gonna da-da-da. We want to talk to people who are gonna be neutral and not convict us, not overwhelm us, not challenge us. We want someone who's gonna be neutral. And God is not a neutral God. When God knows, God is a jealous God, as a matter of fact. When God knows that you're going in a different direction, prioritizing somebody or something over Him, diminishing your values, not doing what you need to do, not being who you need to be. When God sees and knows this, God is not going to just sit around and just be neutral. You're going to see certain things happen and certain things come of you and certain things be released. You're going to see certain things. So, again, we have to start asking ourselves, am I being neutral with myself? Am I thinking about the world in only a practical way, only what I want to see rather than what I need to do? Am I being just linear, thinking everything supposed to just work one way, and when it doesn't, I'm crying and I'm giving up? Am I abbreviative, or am I I try to shorten everything up? Am I just neutral? Do I try to stay in the middle rather than making a full decision about where I want to be and what I want to do? Do I just kind of stay in the middle and play the sides so that I don't have to get hurt? I don't have to risk anything. I don't have to do anything overwhelming. Do I just stay neutral? Do I expect God to be neutral when I'm making certain decisions that are outside of where I really, really want to be? These are the ways that we try to think. We think we know God. We think that this is who God is. Like, this is who God is supposed to be. And when God does not move in this planned manner, we're overwhelmed and we don't believe anymore, and we don't have the structure and the faith. Again, when it's not achievable anymore, when God isn't just this achievable thing. Oh, I've reached this, and no. God is not like this goal or this money goal or whatever that you have in your mind. God is your creator. God is your creator. God has everything that you need. God knows what you need. And my thing is, if God has everything that you need, knows everything that you need, literally has everything that you want, but you're moving away from it, why would God make life easy for you? God will not make life easier for you when you are not like making life easier for yourself. And to make life easier for yourself, you have to become a planner instead of trying to plan God. You have to become a planner instead of trying to plan God. And what is a planner? What's a planner, right? A planner is a patient, listening, patient listener who is accepting, which is the A, accepting of natural, which is the N, neurodivergent is the other N, energy, which is the E, and reciprocates, R, and reciprocates it. So again, a planner, a patient listener, accepting natural neurodivergent energy and reciprocating it. Become a planner. And you're like, what do all these words mean? So, you know what being patient is. You know what being a listener is. So, I can even go back over them again real briefly. But being patient with God, giving God the time and the energy to reveal certain things to you, giving God the time and the energy to open your eyes, open your mind to certain situations and certain levels of wisdom and abundance. Allowing God this patience to connect with you and to love you is the height of your connection with God, the being patient, because the majority of our connection with God is us wanting God to hurry up and get things done. Hurry up and give me what I want. Hurry up and just do what you said you was going to do. But the patience is where we learn our faith. The patience is where we learn, you know, it's not about me getting it right now. It's about me having the right mindset, having the right energy, having the right foundation, having the right focus, having the right just overall stability to maintain these things that I say I want. All right. And listener, you know, in order to receive any of these acronyms that I'm using right now, I had to listen to God. I had to cut off my music. I had to not be reading anything. I had to get off social media. I had to really listen to what God was saying to me in my mind. And again, that's for all of us. We have to actually stop moving, stop trying to think so hard, stop trying to decide everything ourselves, and start to listen to what God has for us. And then we'll be able to make decisions, be able to move, be able to speak to others in a better way when we start to acknowledge that we've sat and listened to what God needed us to hear first and foremost. And that, again, you can't sit and listen until you've actually been patient first, because listening requires that patience as well. You're not always going to understand what God's saying. You're not always going to understand what you're feeling and what's going on. But that patience, where we start off at, is where you're going to find the faith, where you're going to find and build and continue to grow the faith and stability that you have. Okay. So once you're a patient listener, all right, you're a patient listener. I'm a patient listener. I listen patiently at everything. I listen patiently as my life moves forward. I listen for God patiently every day. God, I listen for you patiently. So after you're a patient listener, now you are accepting natural neurodivergent energy. So accepting natural neurodivergent energy. And you have to accept, right? We know what accept means: to allow it to come to us, to take, to withhold, to allow it to come, right? So as we are accepting this natural, you know what natural is? It just comes effortlessly. God just gives it to us. It's meant for you to have, right? This natural neurodivergent. Now, neurodivergent is when your nerves or your brain works differently than normal. Okay? When your nerves or your brain reacts differently than that of others. So you see neurodivergent energy in people who are autistic, maybe people who have things like seizures, or people who, you know, are what's the word? Like kind of medically handicapped or things like that. Or people who have gone through like psychosis and these psychotic energies, these psychotic, like, you know, mind switches. So it let me know that there is a natural neurodivergent energy, whether you realize it or not. Everybody does not think alike. Everybody does not think the same. Everybody doesn't feel the same way. Everybody doesn't react in the same ways. Like my daughter does not know what a whooping is. And my thing is, the thing about it is, when she was a little girl, I did pop her. I did I'm not gonna lie, when she was a little toddler, I used to pop her because she used to get out of hand. But upon growing up, I realized, and I mean her and myself, upon growing up, I realized that that's not the way I wanted to parent my daughter. That's not the way I wanted to teach her and to coach her in life. And I had to learn to stop putting my hands on her when I was angry. I had to learn how to start to speak to her and talk to her instead of react out of anger. And I say all this to say that now that my daughter is 7, she hears stories about her friends getting whooping. She's like, I ain't never had no whooping. I don't know what that's about. And I remember back in the day when I used to pop my daughter. When I tell you, as a toddler, I would pop her and she would just look at me. Like, it would be like there was no pain. Like, she didn't feel pain. And honestly, it kind of like scared me, because this is not just like one situation. No, this girl, literally, if you were to pop her, like, she would just look at you like pain was not a thing. I was like, dang, is my daughter have some type of, like, you know, I don't know, like, it's her nerves, like, do her nerves not work? But that even more so let me know that I shouldn't be doing that energy. Like, I need to actually talk to her, because obviously it's not working on her, literally. So I said that to say that in relation to the neurodivergent energy, whoopings and stuff that used to hurt me, like, it used to hurt me, it used to scare me, I would do anything not to get a whooping. But my daughter, what works for her is me talking to her. If I express, it's not even expressing disappointment to hurt her, but if I express disappointment or express that I'm hurt by her actions or decisions, if I talk to my daughter, that hurts her even worse than whoopings ever hurt me. That hurts her more than whoopings have ever hurt me. My daughter will, like, boo-hoo cry if I express, like, dissatisfaction with her. And again, that's something that a whooping could not do. And for other people, like, I'm sure the people who are raised up with me in the same generation as me, or even before, listen, nobody was trying to get whoopings. Nobody was trying to do anything bad. And if you was, you're trying to do it on your own little time so you wouldn't get no whooping. But moving forward, like, you have to realize that everybody's brain and nerves do not work the same. And once you acknowledge that, okay, I'm accepting this natural neurodivergent energy, the fact that my brain and my energy does not work like everybody else's. I'm not trying to be like everybody else. I'm not trying to accept what everybody else accepts. I'm not trying to do what everybody else does, because my energy obviously is so different than everybody else's. My energy is so much more, but my energy is so, I can't think of any other word but different. Okay? And when you are different, when the way that you move, and the way that you think, and the way that you feel like God is moving through your life is different, you realize that you do have to be a patient listener. You do realize that everybody in the world is not the same. And at the same time, you realize that we are all the same in the fact that all of our minds are so different, and that they need to be understood. And deeper than understood by human eyes, ears, and knowledge, but understood by God. So, again, a patient listener, accepting natural neurodivergent energy and reciprocating it. And that means once you understand that everybody moves different, everybody has a different type of life, everybody has a different energy, everybody thinks different, acts different because of who they are, and it's different within them. Now you have to reciprocate this energy. And that doesn't mean like, oh, you move effed up, so shoot, you triggering something at me that's effed up, so I'm gonna show you. No. It's saying that, oh, wow, this person is going through this because they have faced a lot of childhood trauma. This person has been overwhelmed, and they feel lost, and they feel alone because, just like me, they have a brain, or they have nerves that move differently than everybody else's. And since I know that I have this brain that moves differently, and this brain that needs me to be different, and this energy needs me to be different, I have to make sure that everybody else around me knows that they have this energy too, that they aren't not the same as anybody else, and that they have to acknowledge this natural neurodivergent energy. We want to plan God, right? We want to plan God out, and him to be practical, and him to be just linear, and for him to be just abbreviative, and for him to be just neutral. But God is almost the opposite of all those things. God is letting you know with this planner energy that you are different, you are unique, There are billions and trillions of people in the world, but you are one of one. There are billions of people in this world, but you are one of one, and your brain moves in a one particular way, and your energy moves in one particular way, and you move in a different way than everybody else around you, and that's okay. And you have to teach other people that it's okay to move in the way that you're moving. That's how you reciprocate this patient, listening, accepting of this neurodivergent energy, by telling other people that it's okay to be you. It's okay for you to be different. It's okay for your brain to not move the same way as other people's brains. I was researching this week because once I didn't know what neurodivergent meant. That's why I was researching. I did not know what neurodivergent meant when God gave me all this energy. And I was like, God, even when I figured out what neurodivergent meant, I was like, God, what does that have to do with what you're talking about? Honestly, what does that have to do with becoming a planner? And what I realized, if you guys do not know, I used to have seizures as a little girl. I used to have seizures in my sleep. I never had them in public. I only had them at night in my sleep. And for a long time, not for a long time, but for a couple years, nobody knew I had seizures. Only me. And it's because I didn't know to tell anybody. I did not know. Like, I was a little girl. I maybe have been like 6 or 7, having seizures in the bed with my grandma, and she didn't wake up. So shoot, I'm sleepy, I'm tired, I'm going back to sleep after my seizure was over, after I came out of my seizure, because I had recollection during my seizures. I could think, I knew what was going on, I could speak to myself in my mind. Like, I was completely lucid. Like, is that the right word? I was completely like just clear-minded in my seizures. So I knew what was going on and everything. But by the time it's over, I couldn't move my body. I still had to regain my mobility. So after maybe a couple minutes after my seizure, I would regain my mobility, and shit, I was back off to sleep. And it's because I did not know. Like, my grandma ain't wake up. Nothing happened. So I'm just like, okay, this is normal, right? Until later, one of them happened when I was at my mom's house with her. It sounds like I live with my grandma. No, I was at my grandma's house sometimes, at my mom's house sometimes. Why am I saying it like that? Basically, she's my grandma. I went to my grandma's house sometimes, but it seemed like they only happened at her house. But I remember one time being home, and I was in bed with my mom, and it happened. And then that's when I knew I was having seizures, because mom works in the medical field, and she immediately wanted to go to the hospital. She wanted to start checking up on me and all this stuff like that. So that's when I knew I was having seizures. Now, I said all this to say that seizures are this uncontrollable electric energy, uncontrollable electricity that moves through your brain cells. And it's uncontrollable. Like, you can't stop it. It doesn't know why it's happening. It just does it. And I remember when I was going back, because I have to re-ask my mom, but I really do believe she was telling me that the seizures were appearing, like there was all this activity in the left side of my brain. And I never thought that was correct, because my right side of my brain would be the side of my brain that will always be kind of like hurting or pulsating, or that's where I would have headaches. So they were telling me there was all this electric energy, or they were telling me that they were seeing stuff in the left side of my brain. I'm like, that's probably not right, because the right side of my head is what hurts. Now, I realized I was doing more research, again, because I'm trying to figure out what neurodivergent means, trying to figure out how this relates to the brain, and I ran into something. And when it comes to the left side of your brain is what deals with logic, with what deals with like learning and like mathematics and just those things. Like, when you think about yin and yang, your left side will technically be like the yang, right? So your left side is this active energy that wants to just think and wants to process information and wants to make sure everything is aligned and make sure that all these things are together, right? But the right side of your brain is more imaginative, it's holistic, it's natural, it's all these things, right? And I was wondering, I've always loved math. I've always been an analytical person, and even back then as a kid, honestly, I can't remember so much of my life, but I don't remember having, like, my youngest brother was really young. He was 4 years younger than me, so me and him didn't have a whole big old relationship. I didn't talk to my mom. I didn't talk to anybody. Mom was like, you didn't talk, and I don't remember really talking to nobody. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't talk to my mom, my grandmas, anybody. I was just in my own little world. And I don't know whether my imagination or my energy was stifled or like was taken away a little bit. But one thing I know is that with the left side of my brain, meaning that, you know, there's a lot of like electric energy over there. There's a lot of things that's going uncontrollably over there. Like, you know, I being logical and having to have facts and having That's me, 100%. If anybody knows me, you know that if you can't put a fact on it, you don't tell me about it. And again, God is not a fact person. God is it's a feeling. It's an energy. God don't care about the facts, because God is gonna God to turn around and make your facts look like fiction, to be honest. But I said all this to say that the left side of my brain, again, which is the left side of everybody's brain, is the logical side, and the other side, but the side where there obviously was no energy, where they weren't seeing anything, was my right side, which is my holistic and my imagination and me just being intuitive and kind of moving in the way that I move, right? And I realized that through me reading all that we have to use both sides of our brain. We have been placed in relationships and families and situations where we have been pushed to only use one side of our brain. Like our family, has told us, listen, you don't got time to have no dreams. You don't got time to do all this other stuff. You need to be working. You need to make money. You need to da-da-da. And you only are left-brained. You only are thinking about stuff in this black and white sense. When if you have both sides of your brains working exactly how they're supposed to be working, you would really and truly know that your imagination goes hand in hand with creating this alignment. Your intuition goes hand in hand with creating this logic. You will realize that you can't just have one without having the other, and that's why we have both sides of our brain. That's why we have both sides of our brain. Do you realize that the right side of your brain works the left side of your body, and the left side of your brain works the right side of your body? It's so crazy how our bodies and energy is made up, and what affects what goes to what. Like this electric energy, what happens to your brain? Do you know that your baby doesn't just suck your breast and milk comes out? No, once your baby sucks your breast, a signal comes from your brain, and then your milk ducts release the breast milk. You don't realize how much just a thought, how much just your mind gears everything that goes on inside of you. Your mind gears everything that happens. Your brain has control over your temperature. You thought that you just got sick and that you just got a fever. No. Your brain let your body know to rise, so that it let your body heat to rise, so they can fight off the infection that's within you. And we have to acknowledge that this brain, we have to use this full thing. We have to use, again, and when I talk about the brain, I mean all of the resources that God given you, every single thing that you have, whatever God has given you and birthed you with, which is your brain, which is your mouth, which is your eyes, which is your body, which is everything God has given you. He's given to you for a reason, and it's meant to be used in its fullest capacity. Because if you're not using it in its fullest capacity, are you really using it? If you're not using all of who you are and all of what you have in its fullest capacity, are you using it? I wasn't using my brain fully. I didn't have to have any surgeries or anything like that with my seizures. I don't know how that even works, but I know that I was prayed over one day. I didn't want this pastor to pray over me because I was so ashamed about me having seizures, period. But I remember this pastor prayed over me, Pastor R.J. Washington, and he prayed over me, and I remember not having a seizure after that. But one thing you have to know about God, you guys, is that God can bless and is willing to bless you through whatever. One thing I was learning through this research that I was doing for this message is that we all have neurodivergent minds. It doesn't matter that you are not diagnosed autistic, or not diagnosed ADHD, or not diagnosed bipolar, or not diagnosed schizophrenic, or not diagnosed these things. It doesn't matter that you're not diagnosed that you got depression, or not diagnosed that you got anxiety. We all have these brains and minds that work differently. Except that your mind works differently. There is no we talk about neurodivergent means that it works differently than the norm, but who is the norm? What person around you is normal that you would consider, oh, this is the person who is really normal. They don't go through nothing. Everything is always fine for them. Their life is always great. There's not one person in life, even if you know a person that you feel like life is always great for them, they're not talking about what the fucked up shit. So knowing that everybody has this neurodivergent energy, everybody has this overwhelm, everybody has this anxiety. Once you realize that everybody goes through this thing that you are overwhelmed about, you realize that there is no norm. There is no normal. And once you realize that there is no normal, you realize that you are normal. There's no one thing that's like, oh, this is normal. No. You are normal how you are right now. And that means that you have to start accepting that you're neurodivergent and start to acknowledge that everybody else is as well. Everybody else has these different mindsets and these different energies because we was all raised in different types of circumstances. So, right now, again, we have to stop trying to plan out God. As much as God is practical, stop thinking that God is practical. God does want to use you, but God is not going to give you anything without you moving. No matter what you're thinking, no matter what's just sitting in your mind, God's not going to give you these things without you being able to move on it. Because how does God know you're going to maintain it if you're not willing to move on it? God is not going to always be linear. God's not going to always do what you expect him to do when you expect him to do it. Everything's not always going to fall in this one direct line. God is not always going to be this achievable goal, or God is not always going to be abbreviative and make everything short and whatever for you. And God is not going to be neutral when God knows that you need to do better. But what you have to do is become a planner for God, and meaning that you have to be patient for him, listen for him, and accept this natural neurodivergent energy and reciprocate it to everybody in the world. That's your only job, to be a patient listener of God and accept this natural neurodivergent energy and just reciprocate it. You're projecting off the fact that you are not perfect, that you are not normal, and that nobody is perfect or normal, but we are all here and that we're all meant to be here. That's all that you're meant to do, ever. Okay, so how you doing?
I think I remember you smoking out Buffalo.
Yeah, you probably do. Yeah. Yep.
I was just making sure. I think I do that damn dog.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, he cool.
Yep.
Now
have a good day. Hey, lovey. Do yourself. But you guys, I love you guys. Bye. I love you guys, and I pray that you guys take something from this message. Again, stop trying to plan out God. Stop trying to plan out your lives. Your life is not supposed to be practical. Your life is not supposed to be linear. Your life is not supposed to be achievable. You need goals that are over achievable, goals that are so big, goals that are not practical, goals that are not linear, and goals that are not neutral. Okay, and this is all the same ways that you need to feel about God. And in order to get there, you have to be a patient listener who is accepting of natural neurodivergent energy. You have natural neurodivergent energy within you. Be accepting that you're going to think different stuff. You're going to have different ideas. You're going to want to move in different ways. Be accepting of that. You need that, because if you don't have that, you will keep moving in the same ways that everybody else is moving, and you will become normal. Do you want to be normal? Do you want to be who everybody else is, or do you want to be you? So become this patient listener and accepting this energy, and then reciprocate it to others. Show others that it's okay to be abnormal. Show others that it's okay to be you and to be different. I love you all. Have an amazing day. And if you do not know what God is doing in your life right now, you better watch and see, okay? Again, if you do not know what God is doing in your life right now, you're going to be so amazed. So you got to watch and see, okay? Have an amazing day, y'all. Bye.